This video is brought to you by Brazil Resources Incorporated, trading on the TSXV as BRI and on the OTC as BRIZF. Brazil Resources is exploring for gold in the emerging gold districts of Brazil. The company is 35% institutionally owned, with 16% of outstanding shares held by the KCR Fund, controlled by Doug Casey, Rick Rule, and Marin Katusa. The geological team has earlier discovered more than 10 million ounces of gold directly in Brazil and is led by successful mining CEO Amir Adnani. The company has $10 million in cash and no debt. For the thrill of gold discovery, visit BrazilResources.com or call 855-630-1001. All right, thanks for joining us on the show today. I'm here with a good friend of the show, Andy Hoffman. He's the marketing director at Miles Franklin, gold manipulation expert. If you're looking for some people with integrity to make sure you're getting the right price for gold, they have the same ideology as you do as far as protecting yourself from inflation. They're not going to try to sell you some rare coin that was in a ship 200 years ago. They're going to sell you the physical precious metals that you're looking for to protect yourself. I highly recommend Miles Franklin, and I know anything that Andy has to do with is up the utmost integrity. Andy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. And on that topic, coins that were on ships 200 years ago actually may have some value, but you'll see in the coin business people trying to sell you these proofs and first strike things which have absolutely no scarcity value at all, and calling them numismatic.
Exactly. Yeah, certainly I understand some people diversify into that, but as you know, there's a specific gold company I have in mind that a lot of people are touting on the radio and TV that really tries to push. They sell inflation and they try to push people right into those type of coins.
Yeah, I mean, look, numismatics are basically speculations. For certain people who, particularly people who are collectors of coins and are experts, that's more of a hobby than them. But for the average person, if you buy any kind of numismatic, you're taking a speculation, just like buying a rare baseball card or stamp. And when you're paying such a premium over the melt value, there's a good chance that you're going to lose money on your investment.
Exactly. Well, hey, Andy, I want to talk to you about the cartel. Just as we're starting this interview, you and I just discussed there was something that just came across the wire. A company that's downgraded the U.S. now might be investigated by the SEC or is going to be investigated. Is there anything that's going to stop this cartel? It seems like they can do anything right out in the open now, and it really doesn't matter. Is society just too stupid for the cartel to ever fail?
Well, society is not powerful enough to challenge them, and my view is that most people in society have been so devastated by financial losses, unemployment, inflation, and the related social problems that they really just don't have the time to deal with it. People are just trying to survive, and things are only going to get worse because every one of those issues I just noted is going to get worse. The money printing is going to make inflation worse. The global economy is collapsing. I mean, there's no better way of putting it than it's collapsing. So everything I just spoke about is going to get worse, and as a result, the pressures on those people in charge to do draconian things to stay in charge is going to become immense. Which is why I spent so much time focusing on gold manipulation, because that is their Achilles heel. Their ability to print the money that enables them to do these horrible things, whether it's short selling stocks, bailing out banks, starting wars, or whatever, is stopped if people lose confidence in the currency. And obviously they've been losing confidence in the currency for some time, but that's nothing compared to what's coming in the future. And what you just mentioned before, which was just perfect timing for this call, was literally just as we were about to hit go on the call, it says the U.S. SEC is investigating charges. They're going to make charges against Egan-Jones, which is the kind of fourth rating agency after Fitch, Moody's, and S&P. If you remember, Egan-Jones downgraded the United States last week to I think it was AA minus, and they downgraded J.P. Morgan after their earnings last week. So yes, these guys are powerful, and they are doing things out in the open that I've never seen before. But again, the Achilles heel is physical gold and silver, and anything else you try to beat them with, you're probably going to fail.
Now, you touched on the Brainwash Society in an article a few days ago in regards to people not believing and not knowing that gold and silver is money and really clinging to that fiat money. And I think you brought it up in the sense that people were asking you, if the dollar collapses, how much will my gold be worth? How do you, is society so brainwashed? What will it take to overcome that 40 years? My concern here is this, is that it's going to be hard to break the cartel because there's just not enough people on our side, and the vast majority of people are just going to keep clinging to the dollars, just like they did in '08 during the financial crisis.
Okay, well, that's a lot of questions. First of all, we don't need a lot of people on our side. We need the money on our side. And the Chinese central bank, the Indian central bank, the Russian central bank, the Arab central bank, Brazil, you name it, they're the people who are going to beat the cartel. It's just going to be icing on the cake when the public gets scared. But the Chinese alone, with their $2 trillion or whatever it is of reserves, could break gold. They could break silver in a minute. They could break it today if they wanted to do it. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, as far as the Brainwash Society, I mean, yeah, part of it is, look, we've used dollars for our entire life. We've used fiat dollars since 1971. I was born in 1970. So I and all my peers and generation have used dollars. And, before that, for our parents' generation, they were, my parents were born in 43, 44 when Bretton Woods occurred. So they actually were children when the dollar was backed by something, and it really was as good as gold. So it really is something that's difficult to break. And yes, there's a lot of propaganda out there and market manipulation to try to, make people think things aren't as they are. But, the biggest issue to me is not so much society's too dumb or they're too brainwashed. They just, like I said before, are broke. And that's the worst part of all this, whitewashing of reality. Like if they come out and say that the NFP payrolls are so good, look, the reality is that all the real unemployment statistics are horrible. All the real GDP, inflation statistics are all horrible. The housing market gets worse each day. And this is real life. Most people are struggling. When they say things like the elimination of the middle class, people should think about what that really means. It means that there are very few people left in this country who are not in the 1% who are ultra rich, or in the 50% or so who are struggling to make ends meet. And if you're trying to make ends meet, you really don't care about trying to challenge authority. In fact, you're thrilled if Obama says, "I'm going to pay for your health care." Or if they say, "Yes, we need to go bomb Iran and we need people for the army so we can pay you." So it really is a matter of people are just clinging to anything that they can get something from. It's not any different than why people listen to other demagogues in history. And I'm not comparing Obama to Hitler, but there are plenty of instances where people listen to insane things, whether it's from Obama or Bush or Clinton or whoever's coming next, because they just are losing hope. And that's where we stand right now. And that's why things are so dangerous.
So when people talk, a lot of gold people are talking about there's going to be a gold bubble mania. Now, in a situation where we have a high unemployment, the economy is bad, are we going to see a gold bubble mania, or are we going to see the powerful people like the Central Bank of China? They're going to be the ones that cause the price of gold to go up. I mean, what should we be envisioning for this super spike in gold? Is it going to be a bubble filling, or is it going to be a collapse and protect yourself filling?
Well, it would be more toward the latter than the former. Look, what's going to happen is not a spike in gold. What is going to happen is a collapse in confidence in paper currency. Every currency is tied to the U.S. dollar. Every single one, whether you're in deepest, darkest Africa, whether you're in southern South America, or whether you're in Europe, everything is tied to the dollar. And when faith in these currencies goes, and the dollar is going to be the last to go, but you're going to see some pretty big ones go before it, like the euro and the pound. But when you see that fear, when people realize that those dollars and euros and yen are not worth anything, and they clamor to get stuff, whether it's food, whether it's gasoline, whether it's batteries, toilet paper, or, of course, real money, that's when you're going to see what you're referring to as the spike in gold, because what's going to happen is it's going to be a hyperinflation that's caused solely by currency collapse. Now, China is the biggest player in making this happen because they have the most to lose. They have the most dollars, so they're going to be the most fearful. And the people, look, they have to feed 1.6 billion people in that country, so they're going to need all the gold they can get. That's why they tell the people to buy it. But in essence, you're going to have a very, very small amount of real money chased by everyone in the world. And there will be no mania for gold. There will be no cab drivers talking about gold stocks and talking about, I bought my gold. People are going to be fearful because we're going to move to the next stage of global social unrest. And so when I talk about protecting yourself, I'm not just talking about buying gold. I'm talking about thinking about what the world might look like and what things you might need to do to prepare for it.
Andy, if people are preparing for this type of scenario in your own personal life, when you talk about this stuff, I mean, how much are you preparing as far as long-term food storage, possibly an alternative means of energy at your own personal residence? How concerned are you about, and how long do you think we could have like this massive unrest in our society?
Well, I'm not going to talk about what I'm personally doing, but I can tell you that I don't lie to people, and I certainly wouldn't mislead them. Look, everyone needs to have stores of things that might be affected by hyperinflation. If inflation gets going, I mean, look at gas prices. Okay, I live in Colorado where prices are cheap at $3.85 a gallon. But in most places in the country, they're over $4, and we could very easily see $5 or $6 this year, even if we don't bomb Iran. If we do, it could be $10 a gallon. So people need to think, well, if we're talking about bombing Iran, I should go to the store and buy some gas, right? I mean, I may need it to get to places to fuel things like my lawnmower or who knows what. And what if there is a shortage? I remember what happened in the 1970s, people lining up. I don't want to be lining up for gasoline. And the same thing will go for food. Food is the number one most important thing in the world, more important than gold even. If you have 5 years worth of food, you probably don't even need gold because mostly you're going to need gold to buy food. So everyone should think about that. And yeah, you're talking about home generators. In fact, the piece I'm writing for tomorrow is called Prepping 101, and it's talking about the various things you should be thinking about, such as, do you want a home generator? Do you want solar panels? Do you want all kinds of things that could be affected as this fear of paper currency seeps into the global system? And I assure you, it will be global. It will not just be in Europe. It will not be in the United States and China or any country, even some of the countries people think are super immune, like Norway or New Zealand. Everyone is affected by fiat currency collapse.
Now, knowing that the fiat currency collapse will be epic in history, in global history, the powers that be are going to do everything they can to protect this right to control people, to be able to just print this money out of thin air and loan it into existence and make people do whatever they want because everybody values this man-made creation. What do you see, Andy, that the powers that be are going to do to protect that right? What are they doing right now, and what do you see some extremes that may come in our future?
Okay, well, right now and the future obviously are two different things. I mean, right now they are trying to, through what the big three of money printing, market manipulation, and propaganda, desperately trying to promote a perception that things are okay, that don't worry, we did all these bailouts and it's going to be okay. The real information says otherwise. I mean, and look at these bond auctions in Europe now. You're seeing interest rates and CDS rates soaring. I just saw an article that said EU unemployment just hit an all-time high this month. Plus, you're now seeing the U.S. economic data, the supposed amazing data like the employment numbers, massively rolling over. So right now, they're desperate efforts, which include the most incredible 6 weeks, or really 6 months of gold suppression I've seen in 10 years, are kind of at the end game, because now we're at the point where the real world is being seen, and the Fed will, in fact, have to come out and say, yes, we're doing overt QE3, we're going to print into infinity, and that's when the real inflation starts. Now, the real inflation is eventually going to turn into some kind of accelerated and or hyperinflation, and that's when the future, as you're talking about, comes. And when the future comes, the currency is going to be the last thing that's on the priority list of the government. That's when control of the people is going to be required, because hyperinflation is going to cause these shortages and social unrest and unemployment, and that's what I fear the most. And that's what people need to do. They need to think several steps ahead, not about tomorrow. This is the good old days to me, because right now people still have a normal life. The shelves are still stocked. People are not fearful, although in their personal lives, behind closed doors, they're damn fearful. There's a lot of divorces and job losses and all kinds of things, and underwater houses. But the next stage is the one people should fear, and I believe that that's coming very, very soon. I personally believe that Spain is going to catalyze this global meltdown 3, and I don't think that global meltdown 3 will be survived with money printing the way parts 1 and 2 will be. It's either going to be, hyperinflation or bust, and I don't believe that we'll be standing here talking a year from now without some of these draconian things having already started.
Now, Andy, in closing, I'd be a fool not to ask you about manipulation. You are, without a doubt, one of the world's top experts on gold manipulation. For people who, are vaguely familiar with gold manipulation, most don't fully understand it. What is going on right now? Let's say, just looking at the gold chart, or the gold price here for the last month or two.
Well, look, really, if the chart you really want to look at is going back to September 6th. Okay, September 6th was literally the day after Labor Day. Okay, gold actually was during Labor Day up to its all-time high of 1920. And that morning, the 6th, the Swiss bank made one of the most incredibly gold bullish announcements of all time. The Swiss, who are known for conservatism and once owned 2,500 tons of gold, which they've sold two-thirds of. They devalued the franc by 10% overnight and pegged it to the euro, which is on its deathbed because of the competitive currency devaluation that's going around the world. Minutes before that was announced, not after, before, gold was knocked down $50 in 3 minutes because they were so terrified that gold was going to break over 2,000 on this announcement. And that started what I call Operation PM Annihilation 1, and basically it went into today. We saw a second bout, and if you remember on December 8th, okay, that was the day that the ECB surprisingly lowered interest rates to 1%. Gold was busting through $1,760, and all of a sudden a headline comes on the tape. Bank of International Settlements, Fed and BOE, selling gold at the highs to knock it down, and sure enough, another smash, and we went through another couple of months of misery. And then gold broke out again in February, and silver, and they were about to take off for the highs. And then you see the leap day violation, which was, we're talking about hours after the ECB printed $520 billion in bailout money. They did that. So the point is, gold and silver are like snarling bulls getting ready to break out. The cartel is becoming so desperate in their efforts to keep things down that they are doing things out in the open where even I, who don't like to trade, who would never trade, am calling their actions on a minute-to-minute basis. It's that obvious. And they are going to lose. And when I say they're going to lose, they are going to lose as spectacularly as the London Gold Pool did in 1968, and every effort to hold gold down in the history of mankind, because there have been hundreds of fiat currencies that have failed throughout history, including 2 in the United States and almost 3. Our beloved Abraham Lincoln's greenback would have been gone if the Civil War went on another year. And this will fail in the same way, and gold will go priced in today's dollars, forget tomorrow's dollars. Today's dollars, it needs to get closer to $15,000 to $20,000 an ounce to get back to its equilibrium from all this manipulation. But that's before the hyperinflation sets in. At that point, the price in dollars is going to be meaningless. It's just going to matter whether you have ounces or not.
Andy, how much longer? I mean, I know it's impossible. This is the central planners. You don't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. Obviously, there's geopolitical events as well. But I personally can tell you, I thought we would have seen the collapse and hyperinflation. I thought it was going to happen in 08, 09. How many years can this go on? I mean, are we looking at another 8, 9 years?
Okay, well, For one, we're not looking at 8 or 9 years because we're talking about a cartel that's painted in a corner. And what I mean by that is they've used almost all of their ammunition. You know, when we went off of the gold standard in 1971, the reason we were able to grow this far and get 30, 40 years down the line was because at that time, thanks to the gold standard, we didn't have debt. But the problem is when you have no backing of your currency, the government is ultimately going to hyperinflate it and cause the debt. And now we've reached the saturation point where it's been shown that we don't just have diminishing returns, we're now having negative returns. Each incremental dollar does nothing except create inflation. And now you're even starting to see the overt numbers. Forget what's going on behind the scenes. You're seeing the U.S. national debt start to rise exponentially. And pretty soon all these numbers are going to go hyperbolic as opposed to exponential, to the point where there is nothing left that they can do. They will not be able to just print money, because all that will do will create more inflation. And that's why I don't believe we have much time left before this happens. Could they get it going for another year, especially in an election year where they have all forces out trying to keep it from going? Maybe. But then again, Obama and his crew can't control what goes on in Europe. I mean, look at what's going on in Spain right now. Spain is going to be Greece within weeks. So I don't know. It's not 8 to 9 years. It's not today, but it's going to be sometime soon. And when it does happen, if you don't have the things that you need, like the gold and silver, like the food, like the other life necessities, you're not going to be able to get them.
Andy, thank you so much for your time. If somebody wants to reach out to you, where's the best place for them to go?
Right, milesfranklin.com. We're one of the largest bullion dealers in the country. I write a free blog every day, as does David Schechtman, our firm's founder. Just go to milesfranklin.com. You put your email in, or you can view the archive there, and my email address and phone number there as well.
Andy, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to all your work. You get a lot of it. Obviously, I get it emailed directly, but I see a lot of it posted all over the web now, and it's certainly a good thing to see that out there.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Daniel.
You have a good day. Thanks.
You too.
For more unconventional ideas, please visit crushthestreet.com.